Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is going to be one of my authors' chats of the week. And as always, I'll give this kind of a few minutes so the notifications can start being sent out, and I can connect with my co-host. Let me see if I can do that actually right now. We'll get things going. And shortly, we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. Hello.
Hi, how's everything?
Oh, it's good. There you go. Perfect. I was gonna say that was one of the
Whoa.
smoothest transitions. Well, almost. See, I said it, and then everything goes haywire. How are you?
I know it's so funny. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. It's been a like race car kind of day,
Oh yeah,
but it's good. Like we're here now.
that's good. I mean, we all connected, and you're here. Take a breath. We're great. But in case you've never listened to any of my chats before, it's pretty conversational. If anybody pops into the chat and asks, anything bookish related or makes a comment, I usually try to point those out or answer those questions because if this platform's nice, I'll try to repurpose this
Yeah.
on my YouTube channel later on and put all your information down below.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I'll let you just kick off, and since you're my co-host,
Okay.
and introduce yourself and what you write.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. My name's Ty Carlson. I've been writing for 7 years now. And I write sci-fi. It's near future sci-fi, so it's not necessarily all spaceships and aliens.
Okay,
It's
okay.
really focused on like relationships. So just with like in a sci-fi setting.
Mhm.
So like the first book is just near future. So it's like our world. I mentioned kind of an Alexa type device. So it's familiar at least, but it's as if things are just a little bit creepier. I like whenever it makes us
Yeah.
think about like, what if this was just a little weirder? So
Okay.
I love writing. And yeah, my books I've got 4 books out right now. The 5th book is dropping on May 15th, which is part of a different trilogy, which is like true sci-fi space opera. But yeah, the 4 books out right now are part of an ongoing series.
Okay. So it sounds like you're splitting your attention now with multiple series, which I
Yeah.
know all about. So I feel that juggle that's happening behind the scenes. But okay. First and foremost, when you were talking about just the vibes that you were trying to capture in your stories, have you ever seen Black Mirror? Because that's what it gives me. Those
Yeah.
that
Yeah. My
near
first
future
comps whenever
period.
I was like pitching, yeah, that's exactly right. Was what if the first book is like, what if the Notebook and Black Mirror had a baby? And that's the bench.
Interesting. Okay, now
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
that is a good hook. I will agree. So for your series, wait, what was your series called? Your 4 book series called? What's the series title?
It's called Dadiri, Dadirri, Dadiri.
Okay, Dadiri. So with
Hmm.
that particular series, who are your characters, and are they the same in each book? Because I know some people who do kind of, especially if they move more into the romantic themes, they can write
Hmm.
series where each book is like a different couple. So I don't know how your series
Yeah.
is set up. Are you more following the same throughout, or how does that go?
Yeah, so I originally wrote the first book to be standalone. In fact, all of my books were going to be standalone. And then my publisher said, hey, can you make this a series? And I was like, oh, I don't really want to. And they were like, but could you? And I said, I mean, theoretically, yeah, I'll just make them like part of the same universe. And so there's literally a sentence in each book that ties it together. Super, super simple. So I've got people that have read book 3 and haven't read book 1, and they are no more lost or found than people who started with book 1.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not necessarily the same people, with one exception. There are different stories or like snapshots of someone's life in this universe just at different points along this timeline. So they're all same universe, different periods of time, with one uniting event. They kind of orbit this one thing that happens
Okay.
called the Neo-Pagan Wars.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. So the time jumps are another kind of fun layer I can see.
Yeah.
So when you write, now I'm just curious, when you write your series, are they all jumping further and further in the future, or are you going backwards and forwards
Mm.
depending on where you just feel the next book needs to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I jump back and forth mostly because I don't want to jump so far and then be like, well, now I can't go back. I have to like keep moving forward. So book 1 is like 80 years after this war, and book 2 is 20 years before the war, and then 3 is 200 years after the war. So it's like
Wow.
all these different things happening. Just how do they relate both to each other and to this war that occurred, at a certain point.
Ah, okay, fun. I like that. So, have you developed like much of a timeline beyond where you've written on either side, or are you just figuring that out as you go? Since it sounds like you weren't
Yeah.
originally intending a series, and now you have four plus in the works.
Yeah, that's a really really good question, and I'm not quite sure how to answer it because I have stories like the next story that has to do with that could fit into Didiri would be like sometime around the same period that the second book is going on.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be. It could be like 50 years in the future. Like it's not necessarily tied to any event that's happening other than this war. But I do have two books that are going to be the war, the Neo-Pagan Wars, book 1 and 2, and those are definitely in the hopper. I know when they happen. They're directly after book 4. So like if you were going to read them in order, if you read books 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Neo-Pagan Wars book 1 and 2, you would just be like straight into the same story. So kind of with an asterisk next to it.
Okay. I get that. I get that. I like that, and it definitely is a lot of play. I can see. I've, with one weird exception, have always written chronologically
Hmm.
with the timelines, knowing that my debut series was 4 book series, and I have stories that are kind of like distant prequel stories at different times in
Sure.
history that
Yeah.
I have yet to go back to that world and write, but I have them sitting around in the off chance. And then for my YA series, there was one book where I played with time, but playing with time is a hard thing altogether. So
I had the idea to do like a time, not necessarily time travel, but like a time manipulation thing, and I started just like honestly like a page or two, and I was like, absolutely not. This is going to get so complicated. I cannot do this. I'm not smart enough to keep up with all of it.
I mean, you're already jumping around in the history of your world, so I feel like,
Right.
do you have any physical charts, or how do you kind of keep those kind of notes for those kind of important date markers?
Yeah. I, I do have a chart that says it really is just that, like, here are the important dates, because everything else really, eventually I'll build, if it gets enough traction, like I'll build a compendium that has like, here's when the favorite happened, here's when the wars happened, here's when the bench happened, and the things that occurred around those times. But until then, I don't really feel the need to expend a bunch of energy to do that quite yet. I do have the important dates, and that's about it.
So, what was it that inspired you? Because this is one of my go-to questions. What was it that
Yeah.
inspired you to sit down and actually write a book? And I've said this 1,002 times
Mm.
because there are so many people who have these fun ideas but never follow through with the writing of said
Yeah.
book. So, what was it that
Yeah.
just made you sit down and say this is going to happen?
I love I've always loved writing. I always wanted to be an author. Even in 5th grade, I have a story of like wanting to be an author. So it's always been in the back of my mind. But in 2017, I ran across a random post that was asked a question. If you could sit on a bench with anyone living or dead, who would it be and why? And I asked my wife that, and she was like, "Oh, I'd sit with my dad because he passed away whenever she was 9." And I was like, "Oh, that's a cool idea. I wonder how that would work." And that was the germ of the idea for the bench. How would that work? What would be required in order for someone to be able to speak with someone that wasn't around anymore? Well, they'd have to have their memories. Okay, how would they have their memories? So everyone gets a chip and it records everything, and on and on. It just like spiraled into the story. So I started writing the bench in 2017. I finished. I actually had a friend who is also an author and was like, you've been writing this book for about a year. Are you going to finish it? And in 2018, I decided, you know what? Actually, I am going to finish it. And so I wrote 65,000 words in 3 or 4 months and put it all on paper, and then spent the next year editing it, which was kind of a nightmare. I hate editing, like a lot of authors do. But I then went to the querying process, and that was hard, but it was good. And I found my publisher through Twitter, and ended up rewriting a little bit of it. And finally getting published in 2021. And it was, yeah, it was a journey for sure, but really, really proud of the result, and of course, lots of good feedback on it too. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, going through that entire process and all the stages, and yes, I was gonna say I've only met a couple authors that have had a more positive relationship with editing, because most of us have a love-hate with relationship, because it's
Yeah,
worth it in the end. It's just torturous to go through, and whew,
it
it's a
is.
thing. It is a
It's very
whole
hard.
thing. But querying is also a very different animal, and I'm an independent author at this moment. I'm open to hybridizing at some point if I find the right, story and the right publisher. But querying is an art
Yeah.
form, and so how did you learn how to do that? Because it
hmm
has a lot of its own challenges, I will admit.
Yeah, I had an Excel spreadsheet, and I just like Googled publishers and whether they were open or not, and what they're looking for, and the agent marketplace, I think is what it's called, and found just as many as I could send, and I would do a couple a day, and I ended up sending almost 100 queries. Almost all of them were no's. I got
Mhm.
maybe like three half requests, one full request. Um, and all of them ended up being no's, which is fine. Which is fine. I did get one offer from a vanity press, and I'm very glad that I didn't agree to it. Um, and that it's a lot of work. Every letter, like, you can't template the letter that you send, because every publisher has a different requirement, or you have to have a cover page that has these things on it, and then the next publisher is like, we don't want any of that, we want this stuff, and then the next one wants spoilers, the next one doesn't want spoilers. So it's like really, really particular. So it took just a lot of time, a lot of dedicated energy, to sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop up and like typing out these letters and saving them, and keeping track. And it was a lot. I mean, when they say query trenches, it is brutal sometimes. Good, and it was a good process. I'm glad I went through it, but when people talk about it, I was like, I know, it's very hard.
I feel your pain, kind of thing. I get
Yeah,
that. Yeah, no,
yeah,
for my YA series, was doing the query process. Now, I cannot claim to be figured out that art entirely, so there's probably some of that to it. But it takes you forever to get any interest, and then you get the requests, and um, it is always interesting what the feedback you get or may not get,
yeah.
but from
Right.
that process. Because I know for that series, there were, when it comes to traditional publishing and young adult, there's a very stringent size, word count that they're
Mm.
looking for. And my book was far, far larger than they wanted. And they were like, you were going to have to cut at least a third out. And I was like, you know what? I'm already an indie author. I'm just going to publish it with
Yeah.
with the full story arc that I wanted in it, and go from there. But there is something to that, and I'm sure you have some great benefits of going your route versus another route, because
Yeah.
everything has their pros
Sure.
and cons. So,
Yeah.
how about let me ask you, with your books, when it comes to distributing, where are your books found? I know I usually ask this towards the end, but
Yeah.
I'm always,
That's
since
okay.
we're kind of already here, I was like, where can
Yeah.
people find your books? And do you have
So
any that? Oh, sorry. And do you have any
no, no, no.
authors' copies that you sell directly? I'm just always curious with.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great, great questions. I have a TikTok shop, and you can find them there. There are paperback and hardcover copies that are available. But I also have my own website, tycarlson-author.com. You can go to my publisher's website, fourhorsemanpublications.com. But you can also find them on Amazon. I've got audiobooks out there. You can find them on Libby, and Pat. I don't know if it was Patton, or there was another book website. You can order them from Walmart and Barnes and Noble, and kind of wherever you want to find them. You can usually order them. We haven't run into any issues with someone being unable to order them for their preferred bookshop yet.
That's always a good thing. Yeah, I like the idea of being able to distribute as wide as possible, because
Uh
there's
huh.
always going to be someone who has their particular favorite place to go, and it's nice
Yep.
to, in theory, be able to be there in case they want to get your
Yeah.
work. But yeah, so. Going back to your book series, who are your main characters? What are their names? What are their personalities
Yeah,
like? Let's talk a
yeah.
little bit more about that.
So, in The Bench, this is book one. You have Evan and Meredith, reader, and it really focuses on Evan. And Evan is accidentally me. I wrote him, and my friend read it and was like, "You are 100% Evan." And I was like, "Nah, no, I'm not." And then the more that I kind of reviewed, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I definitely am." Oops. And my wife is Meredith, and that was a huge surprise. One friend said that Meredith was the villain of the story. One out of all the people that have read it, he said Meredith is the villain of the story, and I was like, I don't understand how that is, and he explained these reasons, and I was like, okay, in a weird way, I can understand how you'd say that, but that was definitely not intentional. I did not write my wife as the villain of the story, but it is this guy who is in deep mourning for his wife, who he lost in a tsunami while they were on vacation, and he like has no choice but to live in constant memory of her. Everything reminds him of her, and he sees the pictures on the wall, and this is where they used to go have coffee, and this is the library they used to go to. So all of these things. So he's very sentimental. He's very emotional, and like hyper fixated on his own grief. Accidentally, it's. Having lost someone, I can understand how if you don't have friends to pull you out of that or people around you to pull you out of that, then it's difficult to get out of it. And so his personality is really like I'm looking through rose-colored glasses at every interaction we had and everything that we did, and all the sentimentality was all good. And then there are two other people that are like kind of his friends named Mason and Marcy, and they are as supportive as they can be, but their lives have kind of moved on, and his grief has trapped him in this place. Meredith, on the other hand, is like happy-go-lucky. She loves life, and his memories of her are always where she is active and she's doing stuff, and she kind of has the mentality of like, bad things will happen, but there's more good down the road, kind of an idea. And so they're almost, the way that I think about them now is almost like this yin and yang, where Evan is really focused on this grief and the darkness and the journey he's going through, and and Meredith was the light of that, the opposite of that journey, and she represents everything that he wished he could feel right now. And so there's this real interesting dichotomy that I accidentally included in there just because of the way that I wrote the characters, of Evan's perspective feels dark and Meredith's feels light. And then of course, they intermingle and all of the stuff in the book happens, and that's where the end kind of stuff that goes on plays into that. And I purposefully brought it up a lot at the end because I realized kind of what I was doing while going through those previous acts.
Well, I was going to say writing is in part like this journey to discovery, and so many people utilize it in ways to not just vent and just process things, but some people use it to, heal from things, and other people are using it to just kind of just work through life itself. So when you were writing, was there anything that you kind of discovered along the way that you were like, I didn't know this was very therapeutic in some way?
Yeah. So my dad passed away in 2020. And so I whereas before I had been using what I believed characters went through whenever they experienced grief, and talking to my wife about her own and some friends, I then got to draw on my own grief and like just the ever presence of it, and how sometimes it did feel suffocating, and I could see how there it would have been so easy to wrap myself in that blanket of emotion and just live there. And so I kind of doubled down on that with Evan in some ways, because I knew almost how seductive that grief was. Just the feeling of like, I wish that my dad was still here. I wish that I didn't feel lonely, and I wish. And then writing it, was actually really therapeutic for me, being able to process a lot of that emotion and kind of pour onto the page these complicated feelings of and I wrote a line in the book that I remembered telling my wife, that there's these two parallel universes that are moving simultaneously in the same direction but are unequivocally separate. One where my dad is alive, and one where my dad is gone, and I can't reconcile them. It's like two magnets of the same ends trying to push together, and they just bounce away. It was a really strange feeling. I mean, I remember where I was on the road whenever I said that out loud. It was just like, I can't get this out of my head that dad has been here all my life, and now dad isn't here. I don't understand how, it's not like a flip that switches, is like, this was true and now this is true, and that's
Yeah.
not true at all. It was this strange commingling of those feelings. And so a lot of that I tried to pour into Evan, and his memories, and when he lost Meredith, and those kind of things that happened. But it became pretty visceral at some points because of the grief that I was feeling and trying to process too.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, that's the thing is, you never know what inspires good, bad, and the ugly a story and what it makes it feel real. But as writers, not only do we want to feel, not for the characters, for the story, and be swept away and go on our journey when we're writing it, but readers themselves are going to hopefully go through similar journeys, and
Right.
that's what you really want, is those kind of in-depth, deep connections with some kind of readership. So
Yeah.
I don't know how many things you've done, like in person or virtually, just to connect with readers, but what are some of
Yeah.
your favorite ways you've done so far with your four books right now to, again, meet readers and connect with them?
Yeah. I love doing signings at my local bookshops. There's one called Pearls Books that's owned locally, and then there's another one called Once Upon a Time Books, and I always do my signings there because I used to be friends with the owners and everything. So it's like this kind of sweet nostalgia that I feel when I go there. And I love doing local signings because I, kind of like most of us, we like to connect with readers, and it's super easy to connect with local readers because it's like, hey, you have an author that wrote these stories. You read the stories. Now let's connect and like
Mhm.
talk about it. Like, what'd you feel, and what was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? And that's always been really fun. I love hearing feedback, or maybe not feedback, but like reviews of what people felt. I had one who said, I cried for 2 hours after I finished The Bench, and I was so upset. And to me, that's like, oh, that's the greatest compliment ever. Yes, that's great. I'm so glad that you were essentially like pissed off whenever you finished The Bench, because if you don't have a reaction when you finish a book, even if it's, oh, I hated that, or that character drove me mad, or whatever, then I feel like my goal wasn't reached. I want you to feel something, even if
Yeah.
it's disdain or hatred or whatever, like that's the goal. I want you to feel this emotional welling. And The Bench had that reaction. Same thing with the third one, The Shadowless, had this. I had someone who's never read sci-fi, and this is a little bit more on the sci-fi tilt. But she messaged me on TikTok. She was a TikTok
Mhm.
actually, and she was like, okay, I just finished this part in The Shadowless, and I'm really really upset with you, and I can't believe you do that, and I'm hoping and praying for your sake that it gets better. And I was like, okay, that's fantastic. Yes, I want you to be upset, because um that's a response. I'll take it, and so
Yeah.
I love doing local stuff. I love, I'll do lives as often as I can, and with 5 kids and a full-time job, it gets kind of
Oh,
crazy,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I really want to do as much as I can, and even if that's just posting on Facebook at like bookshop, local bookshop places, hey, I'm going to be here signing books on this date, and to have one or two people come in and say hey is really really fun.
Well, you sound like someone who has figured out how to strike the big thing of balance, the balance of your life and your, well, okay, these seem really guys, but I mean,
I mean,
for
maybe.
someone who has, I think you said 4 kids, a full time job, you're still writing books and following that dream. How? Let's put the question
Yeah.
aside. The general question, how, but like
Yeah.
more specifically, like how do you find the time to dedicate to writing versus all the other things you need to do?
Yeah. The way that I have reached the point that I am right now is by understanding that I have limited, I mean, this is kind of silly, but like I have limited energy to expend and hours to expend on whatever. So if time was currency, let's say I have 5 hours of free time in a day. When you take in sleep and jobs and like bedtime, bath, and dinner, and like all of the things that you have to do. Okay, so I've got 5 hours to spend. If I want to spend time with my wife, that might be 2 of my hours spent. So now I've got 3 hours left. All right. Well, if I sleep an extra hour, that's 2 hours left. And let's say that like my lunch hour is one that I count here. Let's say I go out to lunch with my friends. Okay, that's 1 hour left. I mean, I'm dwindling very, very quickly. So I realized that I don't have time to play video games anymore. I used to be a very avid gamer. I don't have time for that anymore. I try to make time to read, even if it's 15, 20 minutes a day. Even that's difficult. But I won't sacrifice time every day. I won't sacrifice time with the family. And so what I've decided to do is I just get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I write or edit or work on my books until about 6:45. And then I go wake the kids up. We do the morning routine, and then I go to work. And I may or may not write at lunch, but because I've written in the morning, I don't feel so much pressure to write during lunch and then write when I get home or write after the kids go to bed, because then I do get that extra time to spend with my wife, and I don't feel guilty about like, man, I should really be writing. So, unfortunately, the act of finding balance has required me to sacrifice some of my hobbies, which is okay, because I do enjoy writing. It's not like oh my gosh, I've got to go write. This is so boring or whatever. I like writing and it is enjoyable. But this stage of my life, I have to remind myself, my kids aren't always going to be young. I won't always have this time to spend with them. And so, I can coast right now while writing 1 or 2 or 3 hours a day, on my best days, and sometimes skipping a day, and that's okay. But really just understanding that the dedication of writing every day is not necessarily negotiable. It's something that has to happen. Like, I'm contractually obligated to finish this 3rd book in my sci-fi series by, X date. So that means I have to write 1,000 words a day or 1,500 words a day or whatever. So.
And having kind of goals, that helps me a lot when I'm trying to find, make sure I keep pace with everything. But yeah, balance is a thing. And sometimes, like you said, it means you'll have to sacrifice something that you love, at least for a little bit of time. And on the other hand, if this is your passion, you will find a way to make time, even if it means you're going to sleep a little bit less or not play those video games or, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. Things will change and adjust.
Exactly.
And, it is just what you need to do for this point in time. And I did see the comments saying, you're the best author ever. So I see you have a lot of fans.
Yeah, I do. I do have a couple fans here and there, which is always fun whenever I get to interact with them. Like we were just talking about, it's always cool to whenever they pop in and say, hey, hi, Phil.
It is one of those kind of cool things when you receive an email, see someone like you said, maybe walk up to a booth one day and just, say something that's really neat about the books whatever book they read. And those are those feelings that again motivate you to get up at 5 a.m. for you. Right.
Yeah. I mean, if I can make somebody not want to talk to me for the rest of their lives because they're so upset at how a book ended, I will take that. That's a win for me.
I totally agree with you because I definitely repeat myself, I feel like a lot, but books are supposed to make you feel. So if they don't make you feel anything, then there's probably a problem with, the writer needs to kind of work on something. Any emotion, just some emotion, something.
Yep.
But and I know when it comes to more of my darker fantasy, usually that emotion is sorrow or anger for what I've done to my kids. Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah, as long as it's something, right? I mean, chances are if they end up feeling happy after reading a dark romance, you may have written the wrong genre.
that's also true, but no, that is funny. So with you've mentioned a couple times that you're working on a trilogy, and the first book is releasing later on this year, correct?
Yeah, May 15th of this year.
Ooh, that's exciting. Are you going to do
I know.
anything to celebrate that new book, that new launching a new trilogy? Like, are you doing anything fun for that?
I am actually. I'm going to be going to Indie PopCon in Indianapolis. I'll be there in late May, so my book will have just launched, and I'll be on a sci-fi panel there, which is I went 2 years ago and loved it. It was so much fun. It's like a super super cool way to connect with people who are genuinely there to talk to authors or at least to
Mhm.
discover new books, and that was really really fun. I'll do probably three signings here, one at my local Barnes and Noble, and then two at those like Pearl's Books and Once Upon a Time Books. But other than that, I'm really trying to gear up into doing some like there's an opportunity for me to do an author talk at my local library, and so I'll do that and try and do as much social media presence as I can. It's always tricky to try and balance the salesy marketing type of posts with this idea that like, hey, I'm an approachable cool author and I want to talk to you about what you like just as much as I want to do like, hey, buy my books too. So that's always tricky. But yeah, as much social media as I can. I have a newsletter. I've got a YouTube channel too, so it's like all of the stuff.
Can you quick pitch or tell us a little bit about this upcoming trilogy? Because we talked about your
Sure.
current book series. I know you're still going to be working on that one, but what is this new trilogy going to be about?
Yeah, so this new trilogy is about how one giant corporation that kind of runs the galaxy has some deep, dark secrets, and one of their best employees stumbles upon the secret, and then he has to figure out, like, am I going to blow my world up, my life up, because I found out that they're not as perfect as I thought, or am I going to maintain the status quo and be comfortable? You could probably guess what happens, but it's a story that I've written to echo some of our
Mm-hmm.
current struggles in society, just because it seems like we can all identify with the idea of like there's this big, the way that I describe it is like there's a big bad James Bond villain character, and it's like one of the big ones around here,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that if they would just stop being the big owning and sending and buying everything up, then there might be room for the little guys. And that's kind of the story of how this goes. But it's a space opera. So there's like, you're jumping between planets and environments, and there's different species, and there's not just humans, and there's all of the things that kind of feed into that. But I really wanted to focus on the relationship between the characters, because anybody can write a space opera about people trying to save the galaxy. But what I wanted was a galaxy worth saving, where the people in the galaxy are valued and they're important, and you connect with the characters more than just like, oh, that's a super cool world. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's fun. But I want, Cal is the main character and Quaresh is this other character. I want them to be like, oh, I really identify with her for this reason, or him for this reason, and that's really what I've tried to focus on in this. And it's called the Dominus trilogy. And so that's what I try to do really with Dominus is focus on that relationship.
Ah, I love that. And I mean, yes, traveling between worlds and interacting with non-human entities and all that can be fun, but there has to be something that readers can connect to, and so hopefully
Yeah,
the two characters are what you want them to be and relatable in some way, shape, or form to your readers, and draw them
exactly.
back for the rest of the trilogy. So that is a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So when you're working with, because you work with a publisher, and I,
Mhm.
again, on the indie side of things, I'm always curious about various relationships. How much say do you have on the end product of your book, in the sense of like the book cover and the editing process after they get a hold of it? Like, where
Yeah.
does that line drawn for you?
Yeah. I love my publisher. I have almost full free reign on what I do. I have full free reign on what I write too. So I've pitched a couple of ideas and they've been like, yeah, that's great. Write it. Not in a bad way. Just like, yeah, okay. You're an author. You're the author. We're employing you. And we trust your process. And so, they've been really, really wonderful about it. And so I'll submit my writing, and I will always edit it twice before I submit it because I don't want them to get a hunk of junk whenever it's their turn. And so I'll edit it. They'll edit it and send it back to me. And most of the time, line edits, it's mostly grammatical stuff, just like, hey, make sure that this goes here. If there's a major plot hole, they'll point it out. But other than that, it's really like, this is your story. We don't want to change your voice. We don't want to change the way you do it. They don't allow any AI creative input. It's only going to be like, if I want to restructure this sentence to make it more an active voice, that's one thing. But if I'm saying, hey, create a world that looks like this XYZ, name it, and the people and the flora and fauna, then they're like, absolutely not. That's like I would get fired if I did that, which, in my opinion, like, you need to be creative yourself. AI can do whatever you want, but you are the author. So they send the edits back. I'll confirm them, and then we'll start doing like the cover page. I submit a form. It's like, this is what I imagine the cover to look like. Here are some of the pieces that have to be in there, that I'd really like to be in there. And they've always used this example of, like, if you tell me that you're writing a sci-fi series and you tell me that you want just a purple rose on the cover, no one's going to know that's sci-fi by looking at it. They'll think it's dark romance or romantasy or even fantasy. So they're like, we have some say in what you have, but we want your opinion. We want your input first, and we'll kind of like meld what you imagine. So I say, like, I want it to look like this, and they'll do their best to match that exactly, and then send me a mock-up. And I'll like this with Eden Vertex, the first one in Dominus trilogy. It was awesome, and I was like, this is so great. Is there any way I can add one thing up here, and then this type of spaceship that kind of looks like this one and this one mixed together? Can we put that on the back? And they did. They were like, yeah, that's great. That's super duper. So I got the final one in December, and with all of the other information about it. Here's the launch day, and here's whenever, here's the ARC link, here's your trailer and all that kind of stuff. And so they're very, very good about giving all of their authors the freedom to write with their own voice without kind of squashing that creativity. And I've always appreciated that, because I'm probably like you, I've heard horror stories about people who have signed with publishers, and then they've realized, I have to write a certain book for this person or this company, and not the book that I want to write. And I've been very, very lucky that Four Horsemen's been open and honest about, like, you're the author, write what you want, and we'll make it work, kind of an idea.
Well, that's great. Yeah, because again, there's pros and cons and everything. Now, vanity presses are their own little thing to decide.
Their own con.
But when it comes to, you as if you're a new writer and trying to get into some kind of traditional level of publishing, there is going to be some kind of give or take, especially if you're really new into it, and you might need help kind of pointing in the right direction. Because even for me, like, as an indie author, I know I came in with all these ideas of what I wanted my books to be, and eventually I had to, like, listen to other people's advice, and it helped, because what I visualized the cover and what it needed to be was not what the genre and subgenre and age bracket needed it to be. And so there's certain things that you're going to be told, and you're going to, like, cross your arms in front of you and be like, no, but they will help. On the other hand, you as an author, and hopefully you will have some level of rights, like it sounds like you do, Ty, where if you hear something you're like, absolutely not, you have the right to also say, no, this is my story, and I am going to stand firm and make sure I'm telling the tale that I want to tell. So yeah. There was only one point where they asked me to rewrite something, and it's when I first started talking with them before the contract. They were like, we feel like this is a really strong story. We love the way that it's written, but the first chapter, it originally started with a dream sequence, which was cliche, and they were like, you can choose to keep it, but we feel like it'd be stronger if it was different. And I was like, and they asked, would you be willing to rewrite it? And I said, yeah, absolutely, if it's going to make the story better. And they told me that they had addressed that with their previous author that they had asked to join as sci-fi, and the author had said no, that they weren't willing to rewrite anything. And for me, I know that I'm not
a perfect writer. I have a lot to learn. And so I was much more willing to hear someone who has been in the industry. They read a lot anyway. They know kind of this is really popular right now, or this sells really well, or this is a great hook, or this doesn't sell well. And they said a dream sequence opening is usually kind of doesn't draw in as well as it used to because it's so cliche now. And so I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. So I rewrote it, and it's totally different now, and I love it. And I was very thankful for them to be able to provide that feedback, even though I even wasn't, contracted with them. They still said your book could be stronger if it changed a little bit. So I was glad about that, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah, that is, and especially your first chapter. I mean, if you're trying to hook a reader right there and get them invested in your story, that really does matter. And that's
Yeah.
the most rewrites I've ever done are on the first chapters, because you have to find just that right way that, again, is not cliche, that's hooks the reader, keeps their interest, introduces the right people, doesn't overburden them with too much information. I am a high fantasy author. There's a lot of information I need to give you. But, you have to find the right way to get them into the story. So I
It is tough.
totally get that one.
It's like, how do you not word vomit your world onto them while also making it interesting enough that they want to stick around for the rest of the story? Yeah, it's a struggle. I totally get it. Even in not high fantasy, just regular sci-fi. It's like, if I introduced the 22 worlds that exist in Dominus trilogy in chapter 1, you'd be overwhelmed and irritated, and you'd probably be like, this is too much. I know I would be. I get overwhelmed easily anyway. So you got to kind of ease them into it a little bit.
Yep. Absolutely. So let me ask you, since the hour is going to start picking up in a moment, it always does towards this latter half. We already talked about where your books are distributed, but outside of Book Talk, where else can people find and follow you? You mentioned you had a website. I can't remember if you mentioned if you had a newsletter, but are you on any other socials, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm on. I actually started on Twitter, X. I think I'm Ty Carlson author over there. I have an Instagram page. I don't do a lot of Instagram. I found TikTok to be much more of my style, where I get like direct interaction with people, and I love that so much more. But I am on Instagram. You can always follow me. And then I've got a YouTube channel that I don't barely do anything with anyway. So you might as well not follow me there, because you're not going to see very much. But my newsletter, I've got a Substack, and I write every month at least. These next couple of months, I'll have at least 2 a month, because I want to gear up for the Dominus launch. But that's about it. Like, TikTok is really where I am. I've got a Facebook author page, but it's about the same as Instagram. It's just tricky to find followers there. So TikTok and YouTube, and then my newsletter. Yeah, my website.
I'm that work smarter, not harder person. So whatever I create here gets rotated elsewhere eventually.
Smart.
And, if I'm creating some kind of, aesthetically pleasing still shot to post on IG, then I'm going to rotate it many other places too.
That's smart. One day I'll figure out how to do that.
When you're talking about YouTube, I was surprised how much their shorts will attract viewers and followers. And I'll just really download what I create here, upload it there, and it's just amazing. So they're trending. The shorter videos are trending there. So throwing that out there. If you have a few more moments and you're not so when you're precious, I should say, time.
Yeah, right.
You could figure that loop out, and that might help too.
That would be. I'm always looking for ways to do it with sacrificing a ton more time. And I used to download my TikTok videos and put them on YouTube, and just got out of the habit of doing it. And I probably just need to restart it or start it up again, and figure out, the best way to do it. So I always feel like I'm just learning a new platform, constantly learning a new platform. Like TikTok will update their user preferences, and it's oh gosh, okay, what do I need to change now? But it's fine. It's part of the gig, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the lazy one, so I'm automatically tell it that anytime I put out a video, just automatically download it on my phone. So every Monday, I just look at what happened the last week and just send it to the next platform, just automatically, and then I'll schedule it from there.
Genius. That's smart. That's smart. I might steal that actually.
Oh, please do, because I can only speak from my own personal experience, time is valuable. It is precious, it
Amen.
is valuable, and yes, we want to reach the readers, we want to engage, we want to meet the people, but yeah, there's only so much, and we still need to write the book.
I know, right? Yeah. And then edit it. And while
and
you're writing the next one. Yeah. Oh boy. It's
and
so
edit
fun.
it. Yeah, no, I have this book that I was kind of hoping to get to the formatting stage, and then someone pointed out it needed one more proofreader post editor, and I'm just like, oh, that's another round. Hopefully, we're winding
Yeah.
down.
I know. I know. I gave my alpha readers for book 2 of Dominus until June of this last year to read it and give me feedback. And they did great and they got it by the deadline and it was fantastic. But even waiting for it, I was like, man, it would be so awesome if I could get it like right now so I could start on the next stuff. And then I realized like they also have lives outside of reading my books. It's like,
Mhm.
come on. There's
Mhm.
so much going on for everybody.
Oh yes, and that's there's a pro and con about contracting people for things. One, hard deadlines is that's great. On the other
Yeah.
hand, usually it means you're paying someone, so there's the finance aspect of it, but there are the hard
Yep.
deadlines. And then on the flip side, the freebies of people who are volunteering their time to help you out, be it a beta reader, alpha reader, arc reader, love them. Love all of
Yeah.
you. But because of that, it's harder to obligate them and say, you must get done by this time
Right.
because everybody has a life.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And you try to do, even with like my arc links. Yeah. It's, I think whenever my arc is up there, there's like if you could finish it by, April 1st or whatever, something like that. It's like, that's for people who read I have a friend who's read like 16 books already in January. And for some people that's a lot. And so for some people it's not very many, but for me, it's like I read 16 books maybe in like 2 years. So I'm writing them, but
You and me.
reading them is something else. It's like that's impressive. And then also now you have to finish it by a certain date. It always feels weird, but that's the gig too. Is like if you're going to sign up to be an arc reader, you also get to say yes or no to that. And if not, then that's all right. There's no hard feelings. But it's always fun to have people come in and say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely interested. I'll finish it." And then like 3 days later, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I finished your book." And they're like, "How? I like just signed you up." It's fun.
It took me how long to write and edit this book, and you read it in how many hours? What is
Oh my
going
gosh.
on?
Yeah. I wrote this over the course of 8 months, and you finished it in 8 hours. That's a compliment, maybe, or maybe they just wanted to get through it. Who knows?
And then you're going to get the question start, when's the next one coming out? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you helped me.
Well, that's funny. Funny story about that, actually. Yeah, it's coming at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's part of that kind of the humor of being that author reader relationship, and I get it.
Yeah.
I love doing these kind of live chats, and I share blog interviews with people on various things from talking to other authors. I love doing all that. But when someone turns around and asks me like, "Hey, would you be interested in reading my book?" I'm like, the answer is yes. But the reality is, no, I cannot be a beta
I
reader.
know.
I cannot be an arc reader because I can't guarantee what year I'm getting to it because I am a slow reader and my TBR list is I have my physical mound over there and then my virtual one that's waiting to move to the physical mound and it's always cycling into something. I'm like, I can't. And I don't want to be that person saying that I'm going to be one of your readers and try to hit a deadline.
I know.
Like that. There's no way I'm going to make the
I
deadline.
know.
Will I read your book? Yes. Will it be then? No.
I am interested. I mean, it sounds awesome. I would love to, but then there's a part of me that knows like the realistic part is like if you sign up to do one more thing, you might just collapse into a heap of ashes. So maybe don't do that one.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
I found out again, everything jockeys around. It takes me about a year to almost 2 years when I physically get a copy of someone's book. And I'll go to events and get it signed. I'm so excited. before I physically get the copy and then I eventually read it. So the books I'm reading now, I may have gotten about 2 years ago.
Right.
Bear with
I
me.
know. Oh my gosh, I know. It's like this is a popular
Bear.
book like 3 years ago. And I've read all the spoilers accidentally because
Yep.
all of the people, and the reviews and everything, it's like, wow, I finally have read this book everyone's been talking about for 5 years. It's like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, no, that's the thing. That's always going to happen to me. I'm like, man, I wish I could be that first and be like, ooh, I was in the know. Never. Even when, then we'll go back
Yeah,
to
yeah, no.
our writing. But even when I was growing up and Harry Potter was the thing growing up, and everybody wanted to get to the last book and everything, it took forever. Now, I will say that my mother, my sister, and I made it a trend ever since I was really little. We read it together, like physically read it aloud
That's
together as this
awesome.
group kind of thing, which was
Oh,
a cool trend. But like after all the years, and then hitting like the teenage years, and we're still trying to do our group read. It
yeah.
takes a while, and so I know I was the last person of like my age group
Oh, hey,
to get
that's
to the end of that series. It happens. It happens. Anyhow,
I know.
um,
I know.
it's so funny. So let me ask you, since it's that perfect time. Are there any questions? And this goes in for anybody who's listening as well. Are there any questions you wanted to ask that you haven't got a chance to ask, or topics you wanted to cover that we haven't covered so far in our chat tonight?
Well, actually, I'm curious. So, how many series do you have? I feel like I'm proud of the 5 books that I've written and published so far. But tell me a little bit about yours.
Okay, so at the moment, I have three. Two of them are completed, and one still in the works. But behind the scenes, I have many more that are in all different kind of series that are lining up to start releasing. Some later on this year, others in the next couple. So, but of the
Yeah,
series, I have the Jed Chronicles. That is my. I'll tilt it a little bit this way. On the top here,
yeah,
5 books right there. That is my YA Isekai, also known as Portal Fantasy, set in the magic multiverse. It does deal with, because it starts with the younger set of YA, and the kids age up about a year
hmm,
each book until the latter books, and then kind of slows down. But you do deal with a lot of some of those iconic tropes of that genre. So the chosen one, are you the chosen one? The coming of
yeah,
age, and the first romances and all that kind of stuff. But we're dealing with a magical multiverse, 12 magical worlds, multiple dimensions. Pretty much everything you want in a quintessential fantasy is found in there. Grumpy dragons, sandwich obsessed elves, shadow monsters, cybernetic abominations, and so many other kind of things. It's a
amazing.
lot of fun. But
That's so cool.
clean fantasy, so family friendly. Outside of that, I get to the darker side of fantasy. My debut series, the Incarn Saga, 4 books, starting with the one in blue, and that is a dark shifter fantasy, war based. So it kind of falls into military fantasy, dark fantasy. Is still on the high fantasy Second World side. It's Kingdom on the Verge of War. Both the humans and shifters have to decide if they can put aside their differences in order to fend off a greater threat. Dark prophecies, magic and doom weapons, war gods, all involved in that one as well. And that is a complete series for new adult readers. So think college age and up. And then my other
Yeah.
series that I have that's complete is The Guardian Speaker. They're really dark, so you can't see them. There are 16 novellas in print. I bundled them originally in sets of 4, but now, as of this year, I'll have special editions. So 1 through 8 and 9 through 16, and then they have sprayed edges, foiling, character art, all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
so cool. Wow.
But that series is for mature readers, and it's a darker telling of Nordic myth. So you're on this Viking odyssey throughout all 9 realms of that mythos, and it's a deep dive in that. But it is on the grittier side, so almost grimdark fantasy at times.
Oh, that's so cool.
See, I wish I had snappy 1 sentence pitches, and I have to do like 5 paragraphs to even try to capture it. I'm like, man, I am not good. This This is like, woo! See me at a live
I,
event, and I'm like, next person comes up, I'm like, okay, starting from the top.
Buckle up. Here we go. It is interesting though. Whenever you have to describe your book, trying to figure out like what is the high point that I share
Yeah,
because
there's so many ways you can approach it.
yeah, like yeah, is it the people or is it the war? Is it the solution? Is yeah, I totally get it. And someone asked me the other day, I was like, okay, so give me your elevator pitch for Dominus Trilogy, and I was like, well, I know how it starts, but I'm not really quite sure how it ends yet. And they're like, well, that's an interesting pitch. And I was like, well, that's not the pitch. That's the warning. Actually, here's the pitch. And then I did like a little bit more, but it's weird because I, I know what I'd like to say, but I don't want to like we talked about earlier. I don't want to overwhelm you with all the junk that happens within it. So like, what are the high points? That's always hard.
And I do see a comment popping up from another author saying, I tried to think of what a 90s movie trailer guy would say. That's a smart one.
That's genius.
So one thing that I learned, this is not my own, but I took this idea because they were, because they were shared, and I will share it past me because everybody should do this if you go to a live event, but it's also a good thing to do outside of that. So started doing a lot more conventions and everything, and one thing I saw was in your first books of series, especially once you start getting to multiple series like you are, come up and you can like create your 1 to 2 sentence elevator pitch, print it out on a book with some of the tropes and those kind of tropes and genres and age bracket. So it's just a little teeny little succinct bit of information. Tuck them in like the books, so when people come up and look at your stuff, especially some people who are more on the neurodivergent side, they don't have to necessarily engage with you if they're not comfortable, but they get the high points, they get that, and then also if people want to ask more, they can ask more. So you don't have to do the longer short pitch like I do for everyone.
That's so smart.
All the time, because I should memorize those and just not snappy enough.
Just like put it on your hand. This is the story of the person who works hard
Wait here. Okay, this series says.
Hold on. It's somewhere around here. Hang on just a second. Yeah, that's what would happen. I mean, especially with as many series as you have. That's like I've just got this one, like and one coming up. But
hey,
I would get lost
somewhere at some point. We all. Maybe not want to be, but some of us do. Want to like catch up to Brandon Sanderson and his like 50+ books,
Oh my gosh, I don't know. It's impressive. It's impressive. Anybody who it's always interesting whenever like I'll talk with people who are writing their first book and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do or I don't know how to do it. It's like, how did you get 5 books written? And like, that's amazing. And it's like, well, it's not too big of, it's not that hard, blah, 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 whatever. And then you have people that have like 28 or 30 or 50 books. And it's like, yeah, I've been writing for the last 25 years. And it's like, how have you written them? Like, Valerie, you have like 30 books out, don't you? Yeah, 3 pen names.
So that sounds like you have to have a few for that.
She's like, so how does this work? Well, here's this persona. And you have to like spin around and like put on a wig and be like, well, here's this author persona.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, that's a good question. I see that Valerie said about pen names. Are you, or would you ever have a different pen name than the one you're currently using for your series? Or are you going to stick with that name and be like a Brandon Sanderson where it's like, this is my name. It's my name.
Yeah. Oh man, it's interesting. I started out wanting to be TC Rivers. So a lot of my like online personas started out as TC Rivers. Which has nothing to do with like my name really. But I decided with the help of my publisher to just do Ty Carlson. So I write under Ty Carlson for all of my stuff. The only way I would do a pen name switch is if I hard switched genres. Like if I started writing like erotica or something like that, to where there's no way they're connected whatsoever. You have to separate them absolutely, like clean break. Because I wouldn't want someone to be like, oh, this is Ty Carlson. He wrote this sci-fi series I love. I'm going to pick this one up and like, holy cow, that's not what I was expecting. So I like that I'm Ty Carlson. I'll probably stick with it, even if I like venture a little bit into like fantasy, or even the second book I have is a little bit like small town horror. If I were to write a little bit more horror, I would keep Ty Carlson. So I don't ever really see myself switching pen names because I'm not going to do such a switch of genre either.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like for me, I've kept my name throughout all, and my original idea was like, yes, if I went on the spicier side of things, I could see myself needing a pen name again to separate
Yeah, right.
word, separate those two things. But looking back at it, I also wonder if I should have had one of those kind of just a tiny little pen name switch, like maybe used only initials or something for my YA series versus my other series. I didn't. That was the only one that I kind of question if I regret because they are dramatically different, just age bracket wise. And I don't necessarily want a 12, 13-year-old to pick up my adult series because it's darker, it's grittier, there are more mature
Sure.
themes. And so that's one of those things I was like, maybe I should have, but on the other hand, I didn't. I was just thinking fantasy here. And so that's why I kept it.
Right.
But I do see one question for you as we wrap up the night, and this is one, yes, Broomball Dude always loves to put in. And this is, what is your favorite aspect of world building? Or
Oh man.
for you, so, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think, especially since Didiri Saga is all interconnected, but not necessarily sequential, and Dominus is all like that trilogy. I think what I really love are little Easter eggs to where, like, yeah, if you read book 4 first, you would have no idea what you missed in books 1, 2, and 3. It's not like you're behind the 8 ball, you know. But if you did read the other ones, then this one sentence, points to book 2, and you know that, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. I know exactly what he's talking about, or I know what he's referencing, or I know, that event or person or whatever. And I really love, because Stephen King does that in a lot of his, just a really simple, small call out to the people who have maybe read this other book. And I think that that's really fun. So the world building for me is more of these little tiny details that give a call back to the other stories too.
Yeah, in my YA series, because we're dealing with a magical multiverse, I'm not necessarily trying to connect everything into this one universe.
Sure.
But to nod back to my debut series, I did tuck in there like one of those little Easter eggs that actually describes a particular location in my other series, kind of looking through one of these kind of like windows to another world, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, the character just walks off. But like, it's just one of those things that I was just like, I'm just going to add it in just for me to chuckle with. And if someone really wants to like dig in there and they ask, I'll be like, well, actually, you aren't wrong. I'm not
That's
necessarily
awesome.
claiming they're all together. But that one.
Those are fun.
So it's fun. It is fun. I love that. And,
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, if anybody else has any other questions, this is that last call for questions, because at the 8 o'clock hour is that my wonderful time to let out my dogs. So that's when I kind of call it. But regardless, thank you so much for hanging out this past hour, Ty, and getting to meet you and talk about both your series. And, it's going to be so much fun to see how your upcoming launch in, what was it, May?
May 15th. You got it. May 15th. Yeah. It's been awesome being here. I love doing this anyway. Just connecting with other authors and talking with people who drop in for a minute or two. It's the whole reason that I like writing is we're all kind of creating these worlds so that we don't necessarily have to just be stuck in our own.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And it's always fun to just see how creative everybody is and, learn from each other. I always learn something every time. That's why I take 1,000 notes.
I saw.
I always learn things. And I do advise repost things. Makes it help just work smarter, not harder, kind of thing. I do advise that one.
I'm just going to start doing it now.
Perfect. But if you ever want to do another one of these chats, let me know. I try to host them weekly. Obviously, I try to plan them in advance. I am a planner. But I'd love to reconnect with you once you've started to release your next series and see also the continuation of your first one as well.
Absolutely. I'd love to. That would be awesome.
And for everybody who's been listening, thank you for joining, and happy reading, everyone. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.